Guys, have a look around there. Beautiful morning out here. The trees are swaying a little bit in the wind. The wind's keeping the bugs away. Temperature is probably right around 20, maybe 21 degrees Celsius. The sun is not quite beating down on my back yet. I'm not sweating. I've got some really fresh sludge here, aka coffee, and yep, passes quality control, so it's solid. What we're doing today is we are working on day number 3 of getting the roof on top of my new sawmill shed. And if you've been around the previous 2 days, you know what we've done. We've got some posts up. We got that big 20-foot beam up there, and we've also got some rafters up. I've gone ahead and, as of last day, buttoned up a few loose ends, put some bracing up, put some supports up, and just made sure all the nails were in place before I get my relatively light frame up on top of those rafters to get the steel put down. And so that's where we're going to start off. We're going to get the material cut, which I like to call strapping. I think some of you guys call purlins, but we're going to get the wood up on top of the rafters. They run perpendicular, and that's going to give me a nailing edge or screwing edge to put the steel down. And there's the steel roofing behind me. This stuff is the cheapest stuff that I can get. It typically is sold at building supply stores, typically marketed for, you know, low-cost projects like sheds like this. Not so much for a house, maybe a barn, something like that. But this stuff right here, 12-foot sheet, I called around because I haven't bought it in probably a year and a half, maybe 2 years. I haven't bought it since. At that time, I think the price was about $35 Canadian per 12-foot sheet. That gives you a coverage of about 30 inches, I think, maybe 32 inches. 12-foot sheet was $35 Canadian. I called back recently. That is now $72 Canadian. I was so shocked that after I hung up the phone, I did the numbers just to make sure my, brain wasn't deceiving me. 8 sheets at $72 a sheet. You guys know what that costs, a lot. I actually called back to the store and I said, are you guys sure that's the price for this galvanized 12-foot low-cost steel roofing? They're like, yep, that's it. I was so shocked I had to hang up the phone again. I shopped around a little bit. I got it for 50 bucks Canadian, which I thought is a steal, but that's still 15 bucks more per sheet. That adds up. Anyways, that's my little rant on pricing. As you guys can imagine, building materials are through the roof, no pun intended. And so if this is the most expensive part of this project because I cut all the rest of the wood, then I'm doing pretty good. Anyways, that's going up on top of the roof. I'm going to be cutting this stuff here right shortly. What I got here is I think that's 3 inches wide by 1.25 inches thick material. That's going to go up on top of the rafters. I got my HM130max here. I brought it back from out near the field. Brought it back last day. I'm going to get it set up, and we're going to cut some of the scraps we got lying around here, just so that we're not using, pristine lumber just to secure the steel to the rafters. Figure might as well use up some of the extras, and that way it'll get tidied up and out of the way. Some of these logs I'm going to use for actual dimensional lumber, 2x4s, 2x6s, etc. So I'm going to save that and just use the junk up on top. So that's the goal today. It's kind of looking messy around here these days, so one day I'll get this cleaned up. But first things first, let's try to get a cover overhead, and that way when the rain does hit, we can put this sawmill right in there. That's where it's going to live. Guys, here we go. Welcome back. Try that again. Success. Well, the mount didn't make it. I think you guys did though. Oh well. Kind of a nifty little tool. I don't know if you guys have used one of these before, a pole saw. This one's relatively new to me, maybe a year old, maybe a bit more. What is this? An Echo 2, what is that number? Can't even tell. 2620 PPT. Got a video out from when I first got this. Quite handy. I use it for everything, and you guys can see I cut rafters with it when I can't reach it, and I only cut branches with it and cut just about everything with it. All right, guys. Well, we got a few loose ends buttoned up there. I got all the purlins on top of the rafters. I like to call it strapping from time to time. That's those pieces up there. Some of you guys are going to be after me and say, well, why didn't you line them up? Well, it would take more time. I'm cutting with a chainsaw, and so it'd be very difficult for me to get two butt end cuts perfectly flush with each other and have them land on top of a rafter. If you don't know what I'm talking about, well, just go with me on it. I put them in position. They're nailed in most cases. I ran out of power on my impact driver partway through, so I couldn't continue with screws. Rest of them are nailed in. That's going to be what I secure the roofing steel to. And another thing, I'm going to start the roofing steel momentarily. And I'm going to start it on this side of the shelter for one reason, and that is because I want the roofing steel to line up with that existing piece of steel there. I want it to continue up here so the roof line is uniform. And then we'll make our way from that side over to this side. And I did a little bit of calculating, and we should have a good amount of overhang, and should look real nice. So we're going to get up on top of the roof here, and go from there. Here we go. Well, guys, I think that's going to do it for me. As you can see, we got all 8 sheets of the roofing steel up, so this makes my shed nearly complete. There's a few more loose ends I want to button up for next time. That's going to be underneath, so we'll get back to that very soon. But overall, this was done without too many problems. The only issue I ran into was over here. You'll notice a few extra pieces of roofing steel, the brown stuff there. I had to put that in place because by the time I took my 12-foot sheet of stainless roofing steel, extended it off the front, I didn't have enough overhang at the back, at least not what I liked. So I took some extra steel and just put it into place. No one will ever see it. We're not at a high-end house here. We're out in the woods. So that's going to do just fine. I'm going to go around now, just make sure I didn't miss any screws. You probably saw as I was going along the odd time I missed the wood underneath as I was putting the screws in. That's sort of the reality of life. You guys know I built this with a chainsaw. Some of the things are not exactly straight, but I can tell you one thing, it is definitely strong. This will hold the snow load here in central Ontario, and I'm hoping it'll even shed the snow. I know this lumber shed down here, which is the exact same slope as this new saw shed, This lumber shed did shed the snow. This is a 412 pitch. This is a 412 pitch. I'm hoping the snow just runs right off it. Anyways, being up top here is kind of nice because I also get to look at my original sawmill shed, my Hillbilly Hideout version 1.0. And if we have a look at the roof, it looks pretty good. I'd say everything's still intact. And just getting a visual, make sure nothing big has fallen on it. But then again, I'd probably notice underneath. But everything looks good here. And same thing with the lumber shed, everything looks good. And so I think what we'll do, we'll get down here, but not before having a quick look around here. Get a good look at the woods here. Kind of nice up here. Gives you a different perspective. Anyways, let's get down, have a look underneath, and then we'll call her quits. Well, guys, what do you think? I'm just sort of standing back and taking it in here. I'd say things look pretty good. I find when I stand back and look at a project when I'm nearly done, I tend to be able to pick out any issues that I need to correct, but I'm not seeing anything at this point, which is great. We have a look here. The overhang looks good there. And just a moment ago, I was looking at the overhang on the front. We'll just jump back up here and have another look at it. So I usually come to the very end like this, and I'm just looking at the overhang right there. See where the steel sticks out beyond the wood? I want to make sure that that overhang is nice and uniform, nice and consistent from one end to the other. Oftentimes, if your building's not square, you're going to notice a difference in overhang at one side versus the other. Mine looks pretty good considering I cut everything here with the chainsaw, so I'm happy with that. Another thing I should note when I'm trying to build things, I try to make them perfectly plumb, level, and square. And I think I did a pretty good job. As I said, cutting things with a chainsaw sort of adds an extra element of complexity, but I think we did pretty good. Next time around, I think what we're going to do is we're going to look at the bracing that's here, and that's this stuff right here. And I'm going to switch it out and make something a little more visually pleasing, maybe a little more permanent. These are actual 2x4s you buy at the store. Same with the ones on the front posts. I'm going to switch those out, put something up there that's rough sawn, that I've sawn, just so it sort of ties in with the rest of the building. Some other things I'm going to do here. If we look up here, you'll notice the steel sticks out quite a bit. That's too much overhang without wood support. I'm going to go ahead and extend that wood piece there, all those pieces, extend it out just a little bit more to support the steel. One of the reasons I had the steel come out that far is because I didn't want to cut it, because if I reuse that steel, it's going to be cut and not really good for much. And so instead of putting it back one row in which it wouldn't overhang very far, I decided to put it out further, and then I could just extend the wood. If you guys don't know what I mean there, check it out next time around. You'll see exactly how that goes. But overall, I am quite pleased with this. One thing is for certain, this gives me a big square footage of covered space that I'm going to be able to put my sawmill under. So that thing, once I get some more trees cleared out, it's going to make its way right in here. I'm going to do some sawing in here, stack the lumber up here that I cut, and eventually, as we clear out these trees, we'll get a nice saw or log deck right here. I can load logs on with my tractor, roll onto the sawmill, cut into beautiful lumber, stack up in the lumber shed, and Bob's your uncle, or Jerry, or Tom, or Bill, or anyone else. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for me here today. I'd say overall quite happy. That's a beautiful thing. Make sure if you like this video, guys, give her the old like-a-roo. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you next time.